Yes, 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 it is a cast worthy podcast, and we are back. I am Big Steve, aka Last of a Dying Breed, on the Twitter machine, joined today by the VP, two-man game. We're about an hour and 15 minutes late from what we from what we communicated, but your two responsible potters are here. It's Sunday, August 28th. About a week and some change, about a week and a half away from football season.
Yes, sir.
Things things are going. See if I can remember how to do this potting thing. It's been a few weeks for me. What's good with you, man?
Not much, man. I'm chilling, man. How was your trip?
Oh, it was good. It was good. I'm glad you reminded me. I got to send some emails. You know how I do. Um, it was straight though. Long flight, 10-hour flight. Flew out to from Orlando before they canceled the direct flights to Waikiki or
Mhm.
Honolulu, right? We took Hawaiian Airlines. Wasn't horrible. Like I told myself I was gonna do like a little video blog type shit. That lasted all of 49 seconds. Like it was just too much, man.
Yeah.
Traveling with a toddler and stuff. So
I was gonna ask, how did he do on the trip, given that it was that long?
he did all right, man. For being his first flight, like I fully expected it to be worse. The harder part about it was there's no Wi-Fi on Hawaiian Airlines, so if you take anything from this Hawaiian Airlines, get Wi-Fi. Like
Yeah,
it's 2022. Like what are we doing? I'm
right.
on. They got TV screens, little iPad joints, but you know what I'm saying, you can only watch what you have or what they have, which is fine for adults and probably older kids and shit. But when you're talking about toddlers that want to watch their shit when they want to,
Right.
that don't work. So luckily, I bought an iPad. I downloaded a bunch of shit that he already likes on YouTube and shit. So he watched some of that stuff. But it's still, I mean, end of the day, it's 10 hours, you know what I'm saying, for a
Yeah.
kid to try and sit through. Was a little bit, it was
Like,
a lot, but he did good. I mean,
for a toddler, he's like,
considering,
that's like half my life. Like,
right. Yeah, but considering he did good, man. He watched TV. They we had a bunch of snacks and shit to keep him busy. Snacks throughout the flight, but the flight was all right. We watched TV. It wasn't bumpy. We left in the morning. We take off about. They come through with some drinks and shit. A little morning snack or whatever. Then
mhm.
about probably about an hour in or so, they came through with like the first meal, and it wasn't horrible. It was like a little plate of noodles, like like a pasta. Pretty decent. Slam that back, little delicious cookie, pineapple cookie and shit. And before you know it, you're about once they finish all of that and they pack up and you stop seeing people walking around and shit. You're almost 3 hours. We're about 3 hours into the flight already at that
Yeah.
point. Um, then it was pretty dope because they gave complimentary wine, so they came through with a bottle compliment, gave you a drink of that, and then they're like, hey, bar service is open, so just come to either the middle or the back of the plane, and hit the bar. I'm like, all right, you know. So then I went to, I hit the bar, had a couple drinks, had a conversation. I actually met I forget his name, man. I told him I would mention him, but I hit him up on Facebook, so hopefully we'll link up. But I met the realtor that sold Shaq's house here in Orlando. He was on the flight that we
Okay.
were on, and he's a black dude, which is pretty cool. So he's from Orlando, black dude. He's got the biggest, I think that's the largest sale in Central Florida from a from a black person ever.
Mhm.
And one of the highest celebrity sales, $11 million, I think it was what
Okay.
it sold for. So, but he was a pretty cool dude. Talked to him for about an hour in the back of the plane. Went back and sat down, and by that time we about halfway there. So popped open some snacks, chill, watched a couple, tried to watch a couple shows and shit, and then that was it, man. The flight there was better than the flight back. Flight back was a midday flight, and our times were off at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're leaving midday. It's red eye. We get back. Time here was 7 o'clock in the morning because we lost 7 hours
Hmm.
coming back. So I think that kind of threw Ash off a bit, but overall it was all right. That was good, but and then obviously after a 10-hour flight, you're like, all right, boom, get me to the hotel, let me chill. We get to the hotel, we get to the Hilton and shit, and for those who don't know, if you ever book through like those a travel agency and they bundle shit, them low prices, it's for the bare minimum shit. You know what I'm saying? And apparently the Hilton Waikiki Village is a haves and has not type situation.
Mm.
Like if you not, and I tried to upgrade when we checked in, but they didn't have anything available because it was so busy.
Yeah.
So if you don't upgrade and you go with that bare minimum, like I'm like, it's Hawaii, how bad can it be? You know what I'm saying? I walk in the room, I'm like, it looked like a hostel. Like the, the old carpet, like it was in the oldest because it was the minimum, it was the oldest tower. And walk in, old school carpets, red, yellow floor, flowers on the floor and shit, like that type of thing.
Mm.
Found the AC vent. I look up, the filter vent is filthy, like
Damn.
looked terrible. Open up the pull back the bed so I can spray it down with the Lysol. Pillowcases got stains on them and shit. I'm like, yo, is this the Hilton?
Wow.
That's kind of how I felt. Like, I'm like, is this the Hilton or the Motel 6? So I called down and I'm like, yo, are you serious? Like, they're like, yeah, well, we have other towers that are more expensive. Those are the ones that, and I'm like, so you're basically telling me somebody who doesn't have, additional funds, for example, if they didn't, they have to live under these conditions, and you feel like because they're not paying extra, that they're not entitled to a good stay or to, whatever. So
Right.
I got into it with them, and they're like, "Oh, we'll see." And not only that, they gave us the wrong room. Like we asked for a king bed with a pull-out sofa so that Ash can have his own spot.
Yeah.
When we got in, it was two double beds, not even twins, not queens, like two little ass double beds, no pull-out sofa. So I'm like, yo, you gave us the wrong. First of all, you gave us the wrong room, like all this shit. So they're like, oh well, we got people checking out tomorrow. We'll find you another room, blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, no problem. So they call us and they're like, after everyone checks out, we'll have a room for you. I said, is it gonna be the same tower? They're like, yeah. I'm like, well, I don't want to be in this tower. Like, I don't want to be in the poverty tower. And so I went down and upgraded. Long story less long, short story shorter. I went to we upgraded to another tower, and once we did the upgrade that second day, from there on it was like pristine. Like we
Yeah.
do this tower when I upgraded here, and it's only the next level. It was like $100 a day, so it wasn't horrible, right? Um, they got bathrobes, coffee maker. They refill the coffee. They refill the water every day, complimentary. You know what I'm saying? Nice tub. The tub in the first one, like the grout was dirty and shit. Like it's crazy. And so I talked to the girl that booked it, and she's like, "Yeah, there's so many more amenities. It has its own pool in this tower." You know what I'm saying? Like where you got to have a key card to get in. I'm like, yo, how you treat people like this?
Yeah.
Like this shit's
It's
fucked up.
crazy.
But but yeah, man, it was nice. It was nice. The one thing that's pretty cool, I learned a lot while I was out there. Um Hawaii, like the Waikiki area, Honolulu, that shit is ghetto. Uh shit is it's full of homeless people. And the natives, we went on a tour, like an 8-hour tour, and the natives, the tour guide told us, he's like, Seattle, Oregon, states up that way, and cities up that way, they will buy one-way flights for their homeless to Honolulu
Wow.
and to keep their homeless rate down. One, and the way they pitch it is they're putting them in a climate where they can live year round without having to worry about it being cold or
Mm.
rainy or wet. You know what I mean? So the homeless rate is extreme. Add to that when COVID was here for that 2 years, they had like zero tourism, which is their number one means of income
Yeah.
for Hawaii. So um the reason, and I found out the reason they had the flights direct from Orlando for that short period of time is because the flights they were using for Hawaiian Airlines, those planes are the planes that were flying people to and from Japan. But Japan, since they weren't having any flights to Hawaii, they decided to do it. So that's why they canceled it. They're reopening the flights to Japan, and it's probably because the people come from Japan, they got money, they're spending,
Yeah.
and those same planes were being used to fly in the ratchets from over here that use cheapo air, like me to book the shit, which is why you see everybody now is got these Hawaii vacations and shit because it was it was a great deal, amazing deal, but shit's expensive. Like once you
God.
get there, it's expensive, yo.
Yeah.
Like drinks, food, um and it's weird because certain things that are more expensive here are less expensive there brand wise. So like Fiji water out there for whatever reason was cheaper than Dasani, I think.
Mm.
Like if I remember correctly, I think the Fiji was like $2.99 a bottle or $2.89, and Dasani was like $3.17 a bottle. Like it's just weird. Seafood is cheaper than meat because obviously they can get the seafood local
Yeah.
while the meat has to be imported and shit. Um, but once you get outside of Waikiki and you get right outside of that tourist area, I mean, the island is amazing. The views are beautiful. The people are super, super nice. Like they have this like family mentality. It takes a village mentality type thing out there. So everybody's really like close and small. It's like a small town vibe type shit. But it was nice, man. It was nice. Very minimal mosquitoes. Not a lot of bugs, rodents, and shit like that
Yeah.
because you can't bring shit in there. But definitely an experience, man. Definitely an experience.
When you get there, do they do the putting the lays on everybody when you get off the plane like you see in the movies, or is that just like a movie thing?
You have to pay for that. that's that's a separate, like that's an experience. You get off and they come and they lay you. You have to pay for that. We didn't pay for that. But it turned out that Hilton, um halfway through our stay they started laying people.
Mm.
So we ended up getting the good flower lays too, not the bullshit plastic joints. We got like
Gotcha.
actual flowers. Um and so that was pretty cool, but you do got to pay for that. That's an experience you pay for. um we got through it. We came back healthy, no
Yeah.
COVID. 2 10-hour flights. Shit, I'm starting to feel immortal around this bitch. Like,
Yeah. I hear you, man. Did
we
they
got
hey on
lucky
the
though.
plane? Did they do the hot towels?
Yes, they had. Well, they weren't hot, but they were.
Yeah, like the warm towel for your
Yeah,
face.
they were. Yeah, they were
That's
wrapped
one
in.
thing I love about long flights.
Yeah. They were good, man. I thought for the most part they did all right. Flight wise, we on the way there we made out. We had the last row before the where the crew sleeps at. Because I don't know, whatever. I guess the time change. They do shifts,
Hmm.
and so it was super quiet behind us. There was nobody behind us. So and then of course I felt bad for them because Ashton had Wheels on the Bus, and then he had Bingo on repeat, yo, for
Hmm.
like 6 hours, yo. Bingo, and he, he's not a headphone person, so the shit
Yeah.
was So I'm like, I hope whoever was dreaming, they probably woke up and had that song all in their head. But yeah, they had the warm towels. It was overall, Hawaiian Airlines, I give it to them. They did pretty good. The people, the stewardess, they were nice.
Yeah.
Food wasn't horrible. Like, believe it or not, the airplane food was actually pretty damn good.
Yeah. I've had on those long flights where they serve food. I think I've probably had one, maybe like two meals that were like misses, but for the most part, the meals are usually straight.
Yeah, yeah. And then we had some fruit on the way back. It was breakfast time and shit, and
Yeah,
muffin was pretty good. Um, but it was good, man. It was a good experience to kind of see that it's different out there. We did a nice tour, a lot of different stuff. We got to see some local businesses and shit, and you see a lot of people were actually struggling out there. A lot of businesses were struggling because they didn't have the tourism,
yeah,
um and real estate is extremely expensive.
I can imagine.
We drove by on the tour, we drove by the Rock has a big ass plantation out there, so that was pretty dope. A huge plantation with a bunch of animals and shit on it, that you can see from the road. It's not like in the States where shit is like blocked off and you can't
Yeah,
can't peek in. Like, so we drove by there. Obama apparently has a I think it's like 6.5 acre plot of land out there that he just built on a few years ago. So we saw that, and at the high school that he went to when he lived there, we got to see that. You know, did some snorkeling, saw some fish, ate some good food. Waikiki should be renamed White White Titis. There's so many bikinis all over the place. Like, oh man, I'll tell you, yo. But I tell you, it's a shock. Like the first day when I came out of our hotel, the first morning, and I'm like, yo, let's go walk on the beach and shit. After we rested or whatever, it was a shock because there was a lot of homeless people just like laid up with their heads on the fucking um palm trees and shit. And I'm
mm,
like it was a shock. Like you like
yeah,
Hawaii, you see everything they pitch to you is it's paradise,
yeah,
So I came out the first day and I was like, this looked like Pine Hills. Like
yeah,
this shit is ratchet. And then I went to the Walmart because of course I didn't want to keep buying shit from the resort. It's super expensive.
hmm,
And the Walmart, like I was like, yo, we gotta go. We gotta go. This is not safe. This is not a safe
wow,
place for a child. Like I wouldn't have mind being there myself because I'm cool. I get it. Like but it just it didn't seem clean. The Target was much cleaner, of course. Target.
yeah,
But the Walmart, that is like it looked like one of those Walmarts where you see online they'd be like, oh, people at Walmart and they them wild ass pictures.
yeah,
It was kind of like that. Like it was some wild ass shit. For Hawaii, I was like, no, this ain't what you're supposed to see around here. But
yeah. Like when you say like it was like people in bikinis everywhere. It kind of reminds me of the first time I went to we stayed out in New Smyrna Beach, and we
mm,
went to the Publix, and we at the deli like getting a sandwich, and like there's people in bikinis, and I'm like, the fuck is
right,
going on here? Whatever. But I mean, it's a beach town, so it's like whatever. You know what I mean?
put some
So,
clothes on, damn it. Yeah, nah, it was straight though. It was good,
yeah,
man. I'll absolutely go back. I mean,
yeah.
hopefully in time.
That's cool. Glad y'all had fun, man.
Highly suggested. Highly suggested. I wouldn't do. I don't like. I hope they bring back direct flights and shit. Like I would do it that way. I wouldn't want to do 5 up, then sit for a little bit. Like somebody that we went with ended up getting on the way back. On the way back, they flew to L.A. Their flight from LA to their next stop got canceled, so they were
Mm.
stuck. They were stuck overnight, right? Then the next day they got delayed like 3.5 hours.
Whew.
Yeah, so I'm not about that life, yo. Put me on the plane, get in the air, and then get on the ground. Like
Yeah,
I'm not about that up and down shit in the plane and layovers and shit. That's not the life for me.
I agree.
But
I agree.
yeah, man. But it was good experience, good little family vacay. Ready to get back to reality around here. Get this pod back to where it needs to be. A couple weeks were missed. Rest. And a lot of information to cover, a lot of topics to cover. Where shall we begin?
Ugh.
What's the
I
low
mean,
hanging fruit?
I don't know if you wanted to talk about it, man. But I guess we can go there. I wish I had one of those. I wish I had a soundboard. I could play that. Like when The Rock used to come out on WWF, he was like, "Finally,
Yeah.
finally."
He did it
Joe
at the Super
Biden has
Bowl
done the
too.
student loan forgiveness.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Joe Biden dipped his toe into the pool a little bit. For those who don't know, who haven't been following, it was announced that Joe Biden. Go ahead, Var. You intro it.
yeah. So they announced on I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday, that the federal government is going to forgive $10,000 in student loan debt and up to $20,000 if you were a person who qualified for Pell Grants. They said that this policy will excuse me, this policy will affect a total of like 43 million Americans. About, I believe the number is somewhere around close to 20 million people, I want to say, will have their debt completely wiped out, just given like what the averages are and things like that. But regardless, some people are going to get 10 grand knocked off their student loan debt. Others will get 20. And, it's a good thing. I think some people wanted them to go further, like Steve, of course. I didn't have a problem with him going further either, as I said previously in the podcast, but they went with that $10,000 and $20,000 number. It's the thing I don't like about it is that it's going to be an application process versus just doing it. But still, that's where we are, and Biden's kind of feeling himself over it, man. Like, he's had a pretty good, almost, I guess, a month, I would call it. A lot of legislation passed. It almost seems like since he had COVID, he's been a different person. He's been getting shit passed. You feel like he got a swagger back. They're even getting spicy on the White House Twitter account and shit. So
Yeah, he got his groove back a little bit. So here's the thing. I think there's two sides to this thing, right? One side to it is the haves. It's the bullshit people that are like, this ain't fair. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this ain't fair. It's not fair because, you take your loan, you pay your loan, right?
mm-hmm.
And that's all bullshit. And the thing about it is, the people that support them don't realize that there's more behind this than just the fair versus not fair that they're feeding them to understand, right?
Right.
And the reason I say that is because when there was forgiveness for first responders, nobody bats an eye.
Right.
When there was forgiveness for student loans for military personnel, nobody bats an eye, right? And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have it.
No, I got you.
You get where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
But immediately when there's forgiveness and people highlight the impact that it's going to have to minorities and the percentage of minorities that are going to benefit from this, and the people who are, in specific tax brackets that will benefit most from this, that's when you see all the uproar of, oh, it's not fair. Well, I paid mine, I did it. And so, I don't understand how people don't realize the reality behind the messaging from those that they support, and how they're just playing their fucking brains to make them think, oh, well, yeah, you deserve this too, versus, no, you're white and you deserve better. Like, that's how I'm reading it. Am I off?
Yeah, it's you definitely are right, man. It's like, I kind of had a back and forth with this guy on Twitter, and I normally don't like get in arguments with randoms on social media, but the thing that kind of pissed me off about it is that he was basically making that point that you're making, right? Is people saying like, this isn't right, Biden's buying votes and that kind of thing like that, right? And I was like, it amazes me how in 2008, the U.S. government gave over $1 trillion to the banking industry after they damn near collapsed the economy. Nobody said shit. You know what I mean? And give corporate welfare to the defense industry through the Pentagon, and all these hands out to businesses. Through the CHIPS Act, which is one of the things that Biden them just passed. This thing is going to be a huge parts of it. It's going to be a huge giveaway to the semiconductor manufacturing industry to bring semiconductor manufacturing back to the United States from overseas or whatever, right? Nobody bats an eye. Oh yeah, we got to do this. National security. Semiconductors are like the new oil and all this kind of. Nobody says anything. You give some poor people some money, and they're not even giving people money. This is essentially like an accounting gimmick, right? So nobody's getting money. They're saying, hey, your balance was 30, it's now 20. you know
Right.
like that's all it is. It's like getting a credit on your account or whatever, or a voucher for something. Nobody's giving anybody actual cash, right? But you do that for folks who are less fortunate than others, and people are all out of sorts about the shit. And then you look at last year, those PPP loans through COVID relief, billions of dollars through that paycheck protection program. And some of these same people who are making all the noise about folks getting student loan forgiveness are people who got PPP loans from the government and had those loans forgiven. And it's not like this shit happened, you know, well, I guess it did happen a long time ago because they forgot. It happened all the way back in 2021. So it's easy to forget when it's something that happened, but it did. You know what I mean? So
The other part of it, right, is while I'm happy he did something, I don't think he did enough. Like, I feel like it's still bullshit. Um, there, you knew that they were gonna be upset about it. You knew they were gonna bitch and moan about it anyway. Why not go big? Go big and really work. If you're trying to get votes and buy supporters, which end of the day, as much as people are gonna say no, 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 of course not. He's just doing what's right for people. No, the motherfucker wants votes, right? And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's politics. Everybody does it. You know, do it right. Do it right. Go get it. Make it to where you can't have somebody like a DeSantis go out there, or whoever that next person is going to be that Democrats will be fighting against, to be able to just sweep it under, talk so much shit about it, and it really only be 10,000. That's, while I get impact to some, not impact to all. If you really think about it, anyone who's had specifically, and I'll speak from my specific standpoint, anyone who's had student loans for a substantial amount of time, and maybe they might have paused them because they were trying to finish school, or they were trying to reach a financial state where they can start the payments and not be too impacted. The interest rates skyrocketed. They
yeah,
doubled, they tripled, and really, this 10K for me specifically, this 10K is only covering the interest since the time that I finished school. That's all it's covering. You know what I'm saying? So from what I took as a loan, it ain't doing shit. It's the interest rates, and mine are low because I went to a local school. I can only imagine people that took large loans from universities that may or may not have been able to pay, or chose to or not to pay for extended period of time. That 10K is going to be a drop in a bucket. While I appreciate, the olive branch, I feel like there was an opportunity to do more. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity there from Biden, and more so from his camp, from whoever was like, yeah, you promised 10, do 10, you had people in your corner, other Dems, we know the norms that are like, yo, go big, get it all done. And I don't think, all is a big number because some people got a lot of debt, but I think 25 would have been a more impactful number, to where people would be like, yo, it's 25K that I just saved.
yeah,
That's a vehicle. You know what I'm saying? Then you could pitch it and say, that's a vehicle. That's a down payment on a nice house. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I saved you versus, yeah, I saved you, your grocery bill for a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, or whatever.
right.
So that's where I think there's opportunity.
No, and I don't think that you're necessarily wrong, right? And for me, it was like you had one side who's saying don't do anything, and then you had the other side who was saying you should do 50. And I thought, why not just split the baby and go 25, and just be done with it. Now, according to the New York Times, they say they got sources who are saying that Biden was waffling on this, and he was basically getting himself talked up to the point of not doing it, and he was being pushed to not do it by Janet Yellen, who's the Treasury Secretary, and also Jill Biden, the First Lady. And in the story in the New York Times, they say Kamala basically was like, "Nah, dog, you got to do this shit." It's we're gonna get killed if we don't do it, and that's kind of, they're saying that Kamala is kind of what got them, like, kind of dragged them over the finish line, essentially.
Yeah, and then she better. She better listen, man. When that little devil sitting on your shoulder, you better look the other way. He would have been in a listen. He would have been in a really bad situation had he decided to go with whoever, whatever was making him think that he shouldn't do it. Like that would have been a bad situation for him.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
totally
he.
agree. And the thing, like, I look at it like this, right? Even like this policy doesn't impact me at all, right? My student loans are paid off. They're paid off before the dates that they're going to have on this thing to allow you to apply for a refund. So I'm not going to get anything from this, right? But um 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 the thing is like,
You know why you stuttering right now? Because y'all been potting and ain't tell me.
oh Lord,
Y'all been potting and then you ain't tell me nothing.
yo, boot him out the chat. But nah, at the end of the day, man, like, you might as well, if you're gonna flex, you might as well flex.
He
Right?
booted me when I'm back.
If you're gonna flex, you might as well flex, right? And so, like I said, people who are like on the left, your Bernies, your AOCs, your Elizabeth Warrens, they were calling for 50. People on the opposite side are saying you shouldn't be doing anything. Like, why not just split it in half, go 25, go
Why not just
bold,
go hard
then,
and get rid of it all and ask for forgiveness later, like you said before, on other things?
I don't have a problem with that either. But I'm just saying, if you don't feel like, if you're trying, I feel like Joe Biden, the type of politician he is, the kind of
We know he's a
him trying to be a moderate.
bipartisan, all of that kind of stuff. But you say if you're not black, if you're black and you vote for me, right? This is what it is. Or if you're black and you don't vote for me, you're not black, right? But we know blacks are affected most by student loans. When are we gonna get a bone as black people?
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
I
What
know
I'm
you don't.
saying is
I'm just
that
saying.
my read on a guy like Joe Biden is that Biden is somebody who's trying to please everybody, right?
Mhm.
He believes in bipartisanship. He wants the people who support him to be happy. He wants the people who hate him to be happy. And so he says, let me try to, I'm gonna do something. They don't want me to do anything, so I'm gonna do something, but I'm not gonna go as far as the people who want me to go ham wants me to go. But you're in my opinion, you're closer to the people who don't want you to do anything than
Right.
you are to the people who want you to go
Right.
ham.
And
And the
do the
people who
right.
don't want you to do anything aren't going to support you. So why are you this close to them?
Does the right really care if they really do this? The right, to what I'm gathering, they don't really care. Like, if he forgives student loans, the right really doesn't care. It's not something
No,
that
they care.
taking them.
They care.
They care, but they're not going to burn the house down for this. They're not.
There's
No
no
doubt.
there's and I don't think they have a leg to stand on to burn it. I think it makes it a harder situation too. And I'm just talking, from the standpoint of someone who doesn't completely follow this shit like you, Vari. But and the way I look at politics, I look at it from a realist standpoint. I look at it from how I think and how I think others are going to think that have a level of familiarity as me. And it's easy for you to turn and pitch and say, hey, um this guy only did $10,000 for you, right? He told you, to EJ's point, he told you you're not black if you don't vote for him. He's not doing much for you, right? When he could have very easy and realistically, he's on the way out. You I don't know if he's on his way out of office, whatever, but you old. You old. You've been a politician for years upon years upon years. You're doing all these things. So history says this and history says that. During the Biden administration, we had our first black female this and our first black female that. Why not make it history to where when somebody looks back, he says, "Yo, this is what he did for people. This is
Yeah.
what he did for America," right? And I know you I'm not saying that you're arguing. I just think this is where he missed a huge opportunity to be like, yo, I made a big fucking, instead of a drop in a bucket, instead of throwing you guys a little niblet, I threw you motherfuckers a whole bone, a whole meal.
Niggas.
You know
No,
what I'm saying?
Steve,
But I
I think
also
it's
but I also
totally
think it's
correct.
people. I also think it's people like Vari that don't have a dog in the fight because they don't deal with student loans no more. They've been financially frugal. They've had the benefits of being a Marine and being with the person they've loved since high school. They're not living like other people are living. So he doesn't have a true dog in the fight. But they are literally people that feel this because they were told one thing. They were sold this American dream. They come from Miami. They come from Dade. They come from Bridgeport. They didn't know shit about school and they tried to get into something. And now, as I see it, right, I see people that have college educations that are out here committing felonies because they didn't know their life was going to be like this. And they're not as strong. They're not as understanding of life that, yeah, your life is fucked up now and you need some reprieve. And we're such a country. We're supposed to be the greatest nation in the world. We're sending billions of dollars to relieve Ukraine for our political gain in our position there. But Americans are telling you, if you do this, it's gonna help me live. It's gonna help me be better. Even if I need to get a minimum wage job with my education and I can't find something, this is gonna help me. And he don't want to do it. That's some bullshit. It's no other way to slice it. It's some bullshit. People are hurting. And whether they decided to put themselves in that situation or not is not the point. Do what's right.
I hope, I just hope, and I doubt it. I severely doubt it. I know you do too. But I hope it is like you said, VP. Hey, let's see how y'all act. You know what I'm saying? Let's see how y'all act in the future. But I doubt it. And
I
and and
doubt it
that
as
was
well.
what was gonna get at, EJ, when I lost my train of thought there earlier. Is it makes it much easier for people to be like the voter like myself, who's not fully familiar, who really don't give a fuck. This is going to sound insecure and insensitive, and it's not meant to, but I really don't give a shit about why you're sending all that money to Ukraine. You know what I'm saying? I understand why, but I don't care. You know what I'm saying? And I think the average American understands why, but doesn't give a shit. Especially when you're like, yo, I need something, right? And let me take that back. Me personally, you can always have more money, right? To say that I can't live right now and be comfortable and be happy, it would be unfair. It'd be a lie, But I'm thinking of the people that are in that boat, the people that don't have the ability, or they're not lucky enough to have a two income household with two individuals that went to college that make decent money, right? But ultimately, right, if we didn't have that, we'd be in a much better place. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday, um who works for me, and he was like, yo, I'm so happy about this $10,000. I might be able to buy a house and get out of this apartment because that 10,000 is going to come off of my credit report, and hopefully increase my credit score, right? Is it going to make a huge difference? Probably not, but it'll make a little bit of a difference. And is he right? Probably not. You probably have some other situations that put you in a position where your credit is fucked up. But to me, like, and I've told you guys, and I said this on every time we talk about it, my other thing is, hey, don't remove anything. Just take it off of people's credits. You'll help the economy so much by just doing that. So many people will be able to get better interest rates on homes, better interest rates on cars, to be able to say, yo, I don't have $80,000 in student loan debt sitting on my credit report that they're gonna look at. You know what I'm saying? They did it with the medical bills. Why not
I,
this?
I'll let VP get in before I say what I'm gonna say.
Well, no, I don't necessarily disagree with you guys. I was simply trying to explain what I think Biden's thinking is.
We know.
I think he should. I think he should have gone further than it. I mean, like I told EJ before a couple of pods ago when we were talking about when it still was theoretical at that point,
Mm-hmm.
is that you go as bold as possible. All the cliche shit like fortune favors the bold, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But from a politics standpoint, you have to show people what you do for power, what you do with power. This is what you voted for. And like I told Steve earlier before you got on, EJ, I was kind of having a back and forth with this random guy on Twitter. And he's talking all this shit about, what about this, da 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 da. And I simply replied and I said, I posted election handshake emoji, meet consequences. You know what I mean? And he got pissed off or whatever. But I'm like, election have consequences. You know what I mean? You have to show people. You guys went out there and you stood in line, right, for 4 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. You guys went out there and handed out water. You handed out food. You went through the gauntlet and all of it in the obstacle course that some folks on the right have made voting to put me in office. You guys braved the pandemic to put me in office, right?
Yeah.
You put your lives at risk to literally vote. It's not in a way that like people in the 60s did, but because of the virus, right?
Mhm.
You literally put yourself at risk to go vote for me if you chose to vote in person versus vote by mail, right?
Mhm.
And now I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do with that power, and to kind of wrap up my point here, you do something like this, and then you get to the point like Steve talks about earlier, where you might have somebody who says, in 20 years from now, when we're watching TV and there's a state funeral for Joe Biden, and they're talking to this person who says Joe Biden
20
changed
years?
my life.
Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying, he's fucking almost 80 years old. So
That's what I said, 20?
I mean, who knows, but I'm just saying, at some point in the future, right? We're watching TV. There's a state funeral for Joe Biden, and they're interviewing somebody who's like, in 2022, Joe Biden changed my life. He changed my family tree because I was able to change my whole financial situation because of that. You know what I mean? And the last thing I'll say is that reminds me of, there's a famous story about when FDR died back in the 40s, right? And they have his funeral procession. It's going down somewhere in New York or DC or something like that. And there's a guy who's standing on the side of the street crying, and the reporter asks him, "Hey, did you know the president?" Because they wanted to, interview the person. And he was like, "No, I didn't know him, but he knew me." And this is what Joe Biden could have been to people had he gone and been a lot more bolder than he was.
And this is my thing, right? We all, right, like Steve likes to act as if he's 10 years older than me. You're the eldest, you're the elder statesman of the group by month, right? Because me and Steve are days apart in birth, but we're all within 5 years of each other, right? We are the generation that didn't know any better. We are the generation of people who, you got people who went to college who didn't know what the hell they were doing. You got people who didn't go to college, but they made sure our generation did. We are that last generation that has had to figure it out by our fucking selves. The reality of what's going on is that we are the ones. We are the ones that are suffering to death. We are the ones that are afraid of this. We are the ones with the children. We are the ones right now that are making up a large part of the working middle class. And we're also the people that I went to school with that have mounds of debt, whether it's graduate school, undergrad, whatever it is, that are just saying, yo, bro, get rid of this and we're going to be a better country. And that's a fact. And it's, to me, to have this argument is still asinine. If you get rid of these things will improve. It's a fact.
I think thinking it through, and this is the last thing I'll say on it. It's just thinking it through. I think there could have been a little more thought put into it, and you could have tiered it out, right? To say, "Hey, you're getting rid of it for everyone," is I think we had this conversation probably 2 years ago, VP, where you made mention of people who change their major multiple times just because they're undecided, and they just keep taking loans, keep taking loans, keep taking loans, right? So I think they could have thought it out, tiered it out, especially like they did, right? 125K, you get X amount, right? If you're not making, if you're making less than 125, you get
But it's
50.
kind of been like that on state levels already. My thing with that is, I get that we don't care about how people made decisions. The reality is, right, we're a country that's supposed to be thriving and living off its people. What we know for a fact is that Black people had the most student loans. What we also know is we had the least education on getting into those student loans. What we also know is they didn't have any restrictions on people getting student loans. It's not like getting a house where somebody's educating you about this and that. What we know is our people trying to catch up to the barrier that we've had for half a millennia of education. We were doing anything because nobody knew what to do. We didn't have, Steve, you and my mom My mom and your mom are first generation college students, if anything, right? But they still didn't have enough education to explain to us what all of this means. We know that a generation of our people specifically suffer from this. And if you want to say, if you don't vote for me, you're not black, look at the community you're talking to and understand they made a huge mistake. We already don't get reparations. Germany's still paying people for what happened in the Holocaust. We ain't getting nothing. Give us a bone. Don't worry about the tears. Just wipe it away. Wipe it away and see what happens. You know, black people spend anyway. Steve, look at Steve Clark. Look at Steve's shoes back there. Look at his shoes.
I think the you know, for me, the least of my worries is him saying if you don't vote for me, you're not black. When it comes to this part, I think there's other big stuff. This definitely plays a
And
part,
we
but
can't
I
even get
mean,
that.
yeah, I think there's the George Floyd bills and stuff like that I think are more important when we talk about if you don't vote for me, you're not black. Because in
Right.
this case, right, yes, the percentage is high for black people and Hispanics and so on, right? But ultimately, this is going to impact everyone in some way,
In
right?
a
Whether
good
you're
way, though,
white,
right?
yes, right. Whether you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. Everyone gets to eat off of this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm perfectly fine with that. So, yeah, but I just feel like there was room to do more. At least extend, that extension to December could have been a little longer. Pull it off the credit reports. Like, just get creative. You don't have to throw more money at it. Throw money at it at a problem is not always the solution. There's other ways to solve shit, and you could have made people happy simply by saying, and I do listen, I appreciate all that was put into it. I like the cap of 5% because that does make sure that somebody who doesn't make a lot of money, your monthly income, you don't exceed 5%. I think that is very, very fair.
I've
there
seen people
there's
saying they think the 5% cap is probably more significant than the actual forgiveness, but that's an opinion. But
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fair. They could have put some type of cap on interest percentages. Like, you can't exceed. Try and fucking put some type of monitor on these companies, right? Because, and then how do you also, and I know this is not a big thing, and I don't want to get into a long drawn out situation. I saw a video about it and I read a couple things about it, but how do you make sure that with this you don't see schools and other places increase tuition, right? And these are just little things that I've seen people throw out there that I don't think are going to be valid, but I do think that they're valid conversation pieces for people to say. And hey, Joe Biden made a bad decision, and in the long run, when we talk about when it comes time to vote, someone having that in the back of their mind and saying, oh, you know what, that really wasn't his decision making, probably wasn't the best. Maybe I don't support a DeSantis or whoever the Republican is, but from a decision making standpoint, I don't. And then we get into the same bout that we had where people are writing in, and now you got a Trump beating a Hillary and shit like that. Just little shit there that I think there's some opportunities, but all good. We could beat that horse, into the ground, which we don't need to pause on that.
Hey, yo.
But and we
You're
got
nasty, man.
a few other topics to cover. From here, a lot has happened. Let's get into it, man. VP, did you? I know you did. Did you get to watch House of the Dragon, EJ?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, all right. So let's get into that. I want to move into that. You had some
I've been living
naysayers.
House of the Dragon in my dating life.
Oh, you got burnt.
No. Nah, it's just nasty out here.
So you have naysayers like E that are like, oh, they ruined the last season so bad, I'll never watch it. Blah 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 blah. And I was skeptical. I was gonna watch it anyway, but I was skeptical about how good this would be. I didn't want to get my hopes up. How did you feel about House of Dragon? For those of you that may not have been watching, House of Dragon is the spin-off of Game of Thrones about the Targaryen family. It started last week. Episode 1, episode 2 should be this evening. And we are huge Game of Thrones fans up until the last season. VP being a book reader, me and EJ, we don't read, so you know, we read the articles in Playboy. That's what we read. But how did you guys feel about it? VP, you get us started.
No, I thought it was good. Like it was a good first episode. It wasn't as epic as the first episode of the original series. I thought the first episode, I mean, from everything from the title sequence, which they didn't have a title sequence for some reason. We'll see what happens this week. With the showing the map and you know, the music and, you know, like all that, like it was like the first episode was very epic. I didn't feel that, but I still thought it was a very well done episode. There were some things that didn't make sense from a book perspective if you've read the books and know a little bit about like Game of Thrones lore and things like that. But overall, man, I thought they did a really good job. The one thing that I really that caught my eye and I thought was done really well, and I'm glad they didn't kind of spoil this with the trailers, is the Iron Throne itself, right? Because the Iron Throne they have in House of the Dragon is actually closer to the way it's described in the books. And the way it's described in the books is like it's like a tower of stairs with those swords, like it's really high up. But you know, obviously you can't do that in a show or whatever. But like how when the king sits on the throne and he's in the throne is like cutting him and things like that. That's like literally like what they talk about in the books, because the first Targaryen king Aegon was like a king. He shouldn't sit easily on the throne. He should have to sit carefully. And when the kings get cut by the throne, it's like a metaphor for them saying you're sitting too comfortably. You know what I mean? Like you making decisions that could come back and bite you. It's almost like the throne is saying, better watch yourself with that one, you know? And it's kind of like why after he banishes his brother, he puts his hand down and gets cut on his hand. It's kind of like the throne saying, you better be careful, dog. You know what I mean? And so I thought that part was really well done.
EJ?
No, I mean, I'm happy that we get some iteration of Game of Thrones back on TV. You know, VP keeps us informed of what happens in the book and what's accurate and what's not. And, you know, this thing was the most watched thing around the world, you know, so it's just the presence of it being here is super dope. There's not a lot of things going on right now on TV at the moment, other than if you're a Power fan, the Power universe and Kanan and Stars. But yeah, I mean, I'm here for it, man. I like to see what's gonna go on. You know, I like the mention of the White Walkers and the history there. I mean, VP has the scrutiny about that piece as well, but you know, again, we don't read, so for us, for us, it is what it is. You know,
I actually didn't like that part because it didn't. That's the one of the things I was saying didn't make sense.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But
yeah, for somebody like me, I loved it. I don't know.
No, one thing I was gonna say, EJ, what you saying, the part when you say it was like the most watched show, like most watched premiere in history. Like I saw that story too, and I was like,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Well, I mean, but that's what you're alluding to essentially. Like they reported that
at least the other day. I don't know about of all time. I'm saying at least the other day.
Yeah, I don't know if it was all time. I'm not. I think it was all time, but I'm not 100% sure. But regardless, right? The reason I don't like the statistic is kind of like when they talk about like movie sales and they say like this is the highest grossing film in history, and it's like we're not counting for like things like inflation. There are more theaters than were available back then. There are more people who watch movies. You know, movies travel internationally now. They probably didn't back in the day, right? And then even with Game of Thrones, we're talking about a series that probably has maybe besides Marvel, and they probably maybe even eclipse Marvel. I don't know. Has like one of the largest fan base, international planetary fan base of people all tuning in to watch this. You know what I mean?
But that doesn't take away from what it is. This is what it is.
No, I get that, but I'm saying like that's, you know, if you're saying like, man, this thing was bigger than Sopranos, and it's like, I mean, the people didn't know about Sopranos like that.
Yeah, and still a lot of people that are mob fans, Goodfellas fans. Like my mother grew up in the Bronx around mafia people loved the culture and still never watched Sopranos just because she just never watched it. But it's like we got to give it what it is. Honestly, this was a big deal. We all were locked in. Well, Steve didn't watch it live. We watched it live. We were locked in, and the folklore continues. And like I said, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and the Lord of the Rings thing is coming out
Yeah, on
very
Amazon.
soon. And I don't like what it looks like. I don't like. I don't like it at all. So I'm very worried about that. But this was a huge monumental thing. This is like Harry Potter. This is like Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones is on that level, and so
Star Wars, yeah,
Star Wars,
it's
it's on that level.
it's
It's incredible.
it's important that they got it right so far, right? We're talking about one episode, you know what I'm saying? It's super important, and I think it's important to mention how large the viewing was for that night because we saw how quickly they renewed season 2. Like, viewing was super high. Hey, we're gonna renew immediately. HBO's like, yeah, we got it. You know what I'm saying? Also, it's important to mention because people, you're muted, Vari.
The original series beat them on that though. I will give the original that. They get the original series premiered on Sunday, and HBO ordered season 2 the next day. On this one, they waited like 4 days. So
This, I thought they did really well with this. I thought that, I love that they brought in some names, some house names. I think that's important so people can feel like, hey, if there's some longevity to this, we might be able to see it getting into where the Starks come in, where the Baratheons come in, and stuff like that, right? The Starks are already there, actually, but we might get to a lead up to the Mad King. It maybe take a while, but it just sounds like it could go into that direction because you heard those names. So I thought that was good. I thought it was important. And I think we said this in the chat. They got right the fuck to it. Like, we didn't have to wait on all this extra character build up because me, right? Y'all watch these wild ass shows and you'd be like, yo, just give it 3 episodes. It's gonna get good. 5 episodes.
Steve hates world building.
I don't got time for that shit, yo. My time is valuable, yo. You know what I'm saying? You count time, I make time count. Muhammad Ali.
Hey, EJ. Steve watched The Sixth Sense, and in the first 5 minutes, he wants them to tell him the dude is dead.
Listen.
But meanwhile, he always says, "I don't like watching stuff like that, though." Like,
Nah.
Steve was like, "I want Marvel. I want animation. I want explosion." Even though it don't make sense, right? We watched a whole thing about the Avengers for what 10, 13 years, and the shit never was right from the beginning. We got Ant-Man at the very end of the shit, and he's the guy that named the fucking Avengers, and no one cared. No one cared.
No, none of that matters, yo. Give me good shit.
Just blow shit up. I'm fine.
They got right to it. Aegon is a beast. Listen, man. He made, this decision he made. I was like, yo, he's a wild boy. He's a wild boy. They're like, no, was it Aegon? Is that his name?
Talking about the original king?
No, the current one.
No, the current one is named Viserys.
Viserys. There you go. Viserys is a wild boy. He like, yo, I want a boy. Me getting a boy is absolutely worth me losing my queen. You know what I'm saying?
He went hard.
Yo, they yeah.
Did you internalize that, Steve? I felt like you internalized that.
I already got a boy. I'm good.
I'm saying I feel like you internalized that moment as a what if moment.
Nah, yeah. Listen, man. I thought it was pretty crazy how that they built that up. They did a great job with it. I know they got some backlash. They've been getting backlash online from we live in this fucking world where like everybody's so soft and so weak and really I don't even think people are that soft today or that weak. I think people just want to go viral somehow. They just want to be that first person to say, oh, how could they let somebody bleed out on TV and not tell us it was coming? Like, and then you have the people that are like, well, I have to support that. Like, if I support that, I'm I'm ethically correct, like, and that's how I feel like we get into these stupid ass viral situations. So you got people that are upset about that, but I thought it was a really good scene. I thought they did a great job with it. um I love the way, initially I was really questionable about, I thought they were kind of overdoing it with the white hair and everything, and I get it, that's their lineage, but it's still like, it just felt weird because we've seen that in all these make believe, these copycat shows, right? Like I forget what the other one is, The Witcher, like, you know what I'm saying?
No.
Like,
Okay.
when I turn on all these copycat shows and they have everybody in the white hair, I'm like, oh, you're not Game of Thrones, stop. So when they did it, I'm like, oh, but then I remembered it is Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
So I thought it was good, man. I think it's going to be a really good series. I hope they don't mess it up. I hope it stays good. I think after tonight we'll be able to see, if it's really going in a great direction, and if they put some time and effort into more than just the premiere. We will see that tonight, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm
Wait,
excited for it.
I'm interested on how, because this whole, like, this story that they're telling, it actually takes place over like many years. So there's actually, so like the daughter Rhaenyra, there's actually going to be two different actresses that play her, as well as the girl Allison. They got the young Rhaenyra and an older Allison. So I'm not sure how many episodes we got to go in before they time jump, but we're definitely going to be doing some time jumps or whatever. But I'm interested in how they weave that together, because, like I said, it's this thing that the story they're telling, regardless of how many seasons they tell it, it does take place over many years. It's not like a normal, like, you watch a season of whatever Sopranos or something, and like the entire season takes place like over the course of 9 months or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yep. I thought they did a good job too with the dragons, with the
Yeah.
dragon that we saw.
We're supposed to see many dragons in this series, and in this period in time in the books, I think there's like a little bit under 20 dragons or something like that. And the showrunners said I think we're gonna get 9 of them.
Dope. Excited for it. Excited.
Yeah.
What else you guys been watching? EJ, you finished P Valley?
Yeah, it ended pretty it ended in,
Gay.
well, I told you, yeah, a long time ago, but it ended, the season finale ended as if they know they're gonna get a third season. And I
Oh,
don't know
they
if they,
getting a third season.
yeah, they probably will.
Maybe.
They might not. I don't know, because I don't know what the viewership has turned into on Stars, but because they renewed Power much faster than they've renewed this one. So, but they ended it very open with a lot of different things, a lot of different branches and spinoffs to go to, as if they're gonna have something. So I don't know what that's gonna look like. But other than that, I watched a couple of different things. I watched a little bit of the new Elvis movie that came out, and they really tried to paint this story. Like, a lot of black people hate Elvis. I don't know if people realize that. A lot of
Yeah.
black people hate Elvis, because they feel like he was a culture vulture.
Mm-hmm.
He was literally the Eminem of blues. Literally, he's literally the Eminem of blues. He came into using the blues genre. He grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi, around black people. Went to Memphis, Tennessee, learned from BB King and all of the greats, and wrote a lot of controversial things. Did things that black people were doing for years, but as a white dude, got scrutinized for it, but made a lot of money off of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
He's literally the Eminem of the blues era. And this movie really tried to kind of paint that he was friends with a lot of black people and they accepted him. And it is kind of crazy how, in some essence, right, he is vilified for a lot of things. But in maybe 40 to 50 years from now, how are people going to really look at Eminem in hip hop culture? How do people look at Eminem now? I mean, I'm
I don't
one of
think
them.
I don't
That
think that they would look the same on
I,
Eminem as they
I
do on
think, but
Elvis.
I think you're wrong, because in certain circles right now, people don't like Eminem that way now. I've never been an Eminem fan. And there are
So
people now that are like, if Eminem was black, he'd be Mos Def. He's a culture
if
vulture. He's this, he's
No,
that.
I agree with you. I think a lot of people's problem with Eminem, and it's one of my problems as well, is that when we start talking about,
Killing his mom.
these no when we start talking about subjective things like lists, right? We love it, especially hip hop, basketball, whatever. We love who's your top 5, top 10, whatever. And when you start making those lists, people there's always it's kind of like that scene in Coming to America when he's like, "What about Rocky Montana?" And he's like, "There they go, there they go." Like anytime you start making a hip hop list, somebody's gonna be like, "What about Eminem?" And I feel like I like Eminem's music. I like his style. The stuff he raps about is different, right? But if Eminem wasn't white, he would not be as successful as he is. And nobody can tell me any different. Regardless of how good you think he is, nobody can tell me if he wasn't white, he wouldn't be as successful, right? I
Not
don't buy it.
not from a sales standpoint, no. Definitely not from a sales standpoint.
Right. But
But
I think for me, like I was real quick,
But
the problem for me, regardless if you think he's a culture vulture or not or whatever, is that I feel like Eminem has been put at a level where he's too high. You know what I mean? Like if there's a club, on that show that Chris Broussard and Nick Wright is on, they talk about like the stars in the NBA. They call it Club Superstar, and you got your LeBrons, your Giannis's, and these folks, and they always debate whether or not Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler should be in Club Superstar. And then they finally said maybe we should have Club Superstar, but it should have some kind of tier system. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like LeBron and Giannis are in the VIP, but maybe general admission.
but
Jason Tatum's in there.
but VP, this is why I'm saying Eminem is the new Elvis, because people were looking at Elvis, and he was friends with BB King, who was doing it long before he was, right? The only thing was he got off because he was white. He was saying a lot of lyrical things that were unheard of to the mainstream at that time, and he was heralded for it, and people loved him. It's the same thing. And Eminem, one of the main reasons I couldn't get with him, I could never relate to the dude. The dude was talking about killing his moms, and I've talked about this on the pod. DMX didn't even have a mother, and never in 2 multi-platinum albums ever said a bad thing about him, because black men can't do that. We not raised that way. So I get it, and I get you when people talking about, oh, he's one of the greatest of all time. I mean, you had this infatuation with Lil Wayne. I can't say that about Lil Wayne either. When you have people ghostwriting for you, So again, it's he's in that same boat of that Elvis perspective. Is like in 40 years from now, how are people really gonna talk about this dude? Because Elvis ain't do nothing that Eminem didn't do. He didn't. When you look at it, he's put black people on. He respected the people that taught him the culture. It's just he made a lot of money off of doing things that black people were already doing that he only got credit for because he's white. Same
and
thing
slept with a
Eminem did.
child.
Yeah,
Huh?
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
What?
He got with an underage woman girl.
Eminem?
No,
No,
Elvis.
Elvis.
Oh, because that's why I just took him like, wait, I never heard that before. Like, what?
Yeah. So okay. So Elvis. Let's get back on track here. EJ watched Elvis. P Valley is turning into Penis Valley versus Pussy Valley, which is what it used to be.
I told you.
It's little. It's
Probably why they left it. That's probably why they just left it as a P. It's supposed to be ambiguous.
But they got listen. The storyline is good. The acting is good. That dude that played Jay Fonz, the dude that plays Lil Murda, like he's different.
Gay.
He's different.
Yo, people are debating whether or not he's gay or he's acting. I'm like, bruh.
He's different. I like the dude that plays Uncle Clifford.
Yeah.
I like that dude, man. He's got a lot of range. He does a good job, man. Whoever I don't know. He was in something else that was really big, and I forget what it was. Pause. But he does a good job in that show. Dude, Jay Fonz does a really, really, really good job, man. He will make you think that he's undercover. He's doing a great job, man. The writing is good. I hope they get another season. I think they deserve another season. But I do think that if they get another season, Stars is gonna be like, listen, man, you got to clamp it down, just touch, like just a little bit.
Stars been crossing that boundary with power though. When they had
right, but dude, this is P Valley is turning into Oz.
I mean,
remember
50,
Oz started out
50 got the show as meat on Stars. We forget that part. Pause.
Yeah, but I'm talking about volume of it, not just it happening once. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about like every episode you're having like
Gay
this, and
sex.
it's not a problem for them to have it. It's very descriptive and it's very visible, and like
Oh, you saw the condom scene.
I saw the whole season, EJ. You're trying to dial into one single scene. I'm talking about the whole season. It was a bit much, man. It was a bit much. And
Man, it's hilarious.
listen, if it was I'm gonna sound like EJ for a second. If it was straight sex, if it wasn't gay sex, they would probably people would still be like, "Yo, it's a bit much." Like it's a lot, yo. It's a lot. Um, but I think they do deserve another season. I feel like they did a really good job. They played the pandemic into a lot of it, and they did a good job with that. Just to how life was during COVID. So I thought they did a good job. I look forward to seeing what they do if they get some additional time, and if Stars doesn't renew it, I think someone will pick it up because it's a pretty damn good show and gets talked about a lot. You been watching anything else, EJ?
I have, but I can't really think of it off the top of my head. I can tell you I've been watching something. I can't think of it though. Oh no, the show I was telling you about, the new love show, Cosmic. No, is it Cosmic Love or something like that on Amazon? It's one of those dating type shows that we like.
Okay.
I told you this joint. I didn't
Yeah,
tell
you
you about
did.
it.
Yeah, you did. You
It's
put it in
called
there.
Cosmic Love on Amazon, and we like the rom-coms, like on the low. We're like the sappy people into the love thing. Vari being an ex-marine for life, he doesn't like these things. He doesn't like things where people are not getting killed. But this Cosmic Love joint is like they're pairing random people together based on their astrology, and it's interesting because astrology, yeah, I made that a point to say it like that, but they're putting them together on the astrology, and they're like pairing these random people, and it goes far, and it's like they bring in a new person whether you like them or not. And the difference with this show is like they're letting them hook up, they're letting them just go to the limit, and it's just crazy to watch all of these young good-looking people just put themselves out there to somebody and be like, I don't really fuck with you, dog. You know what I mean? And then at the end of the show, a couple of them actually, like all of the people, so they have a core group of 4 people, and then they bring in people to date these 4 people. And like all 4 of them, except for one chick, she left the show. 3 of them got married. And I don't know how real the marriage was, but it was like, it was one of those shows that's just interesting to look at. So I had fun watching that because since Steve put me onto The Circle and other things like that, I've been watching shows like that. So it was like pretty interesting.
Cosmic Love.
Mm-hmm.
Check that out
on Amazon.
I watched that movie with Joe Coy, Easter Sunday. It's whatever.
You didn't like it?
No. I was
Our girl was in it though. What's her name? The
Tiffany Haddish?
Nah, the Filipino one that used to be in all of the action movies back in the day. And she's old now. You didn't recognize her? Tia something? She's an actor that used to be like one of the baddies in all of the action movies. I'm surprised you didn't recognize her. What's the name of the movie again?
Easter Sunday.
All right, when I tell you who it is, you're gonna be mad at yourself. But go ahead.
I watched so I watched that. I watched what did I watched something on the plane that was overdue to be watched. I forgot what it was. I forget what it was. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. And then I did also watch pulling it up here so I can remember what it was what it was.
Her name is Tia Carrera. Google her, VP. You're gonna VP and Steve. You're gonna be mad that you don't recognize who she was. She was an '80s baddie, man. She's been acting forever. Tia Tiacarrere. She used to be in all the '80s movies back in the day. She
Maybe
was she was she was in not she wasn't in man, she was in Wayne's World, Relic Hunter,
Is she
True
from
Lies.
True Lies? Yeah. Oh
Yes,
yeah. She was
exactly.
like the art dealer in True
Yep.
Lies.
Showdown Little Tokyo. She was in
Mhm.
all of the movies back in the day, bro.
Yeah.
She was like the resident baddie Asian chick. You remember
Well, she's Hawaiian.
You remember Cole the Conqueror with Kevin Sorbo?
No.
You didn't watch
No.
that?
Fuck are
And
you
she
watching, yo?
and she's not Asian, EJ. She's Hawaiian.
From Hawaii, yeah, I know, but she always played like the resident Asian role. Is what I'm saying. Like she's always played that role. I mean, in this movie, she's playing like a Filipino person, right, Steve, or not?
Filipino, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, she's always been the resident Asian-ish person. I mean, I'm
Gotcha.
sure she has Asian roots, though. I'm pretty sure she does.
There's a lot of Asians in Hawaii. I learned that too.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty close. I watched it was yeah. I watched something else, man. And I can't find it on the service that I watched it on. But yeah, Easter Sunday wasn't that great.
I thought it would be funny.
Joe Coy is funny in spurts, and it just was it didn't do it for me. P Valley, House of Dragon. I think that's it. If I think of it, anything else, I'll bring it up. VP, what you been watching?
Excuse me. For me, man, I watched a couple things. I've been watching my regular shows. You know, House of the Dragon. Obviously, we just talked about. Big Brother reality show. Me and my wife watched together. Mad as hell, they voted out the dude Joseph. I really like that cat. He's like
Not Joseph.
Dude. He's an Indian dude on the show. He was like one of the. He's like one of the people who goes like, you know how people go to reality shows, they're like all cutthroat and shit like that. He was like trying to play like a good game. You know, nice guys finish last, basically. So,
Yeah.
but
Was he the bomb?
Was he who?
Was he the bomb?
What do you mean?
Never mind.
like he was like a good looking person. Yeah, he was like a good looking dude. He's a handsome man. You know, one of those like ripped, cut up motherfuckers. Look like he spends 20 hours a day at the gym. He was one of those types. But yeah, so watch that. And then I checked out a movie. It was like one of those kind of Netflix recommendation kind of things. Since you watched this, you might enjoy it. You know, it's this movie called Like Dad with Kristen Bell, and I only watched it because I love Kristen Bell. Like she's
I like her too.
And it's with her and Kelsey Grammer. It's supposed to be like a comedy. It was all right. It wasn't, you know, the greatest thing I've ever watched, but you know, I didn't feel like I wasted my time. I also watched Horrible Bosses 2. I didn't know they had made a part 2 to that movie. And so I was like, oh shit, I didn't know they, you know, I put it on. And then when the first, like the opening scene comes on, I realized I've seen this, but I must have fell asleep on it because I don't remember anything past like that opening scene. And so I watched that. It wasn't as good as the original. And then
Jennifer Aniston was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Then I watched an oldie classic, man. It was one of those movies I've been like trying to find forever, and then I Googled it, and it was like it's on HBO Max. I was like, oh, put it on right that's very moment. Movie called Who's Harry Crumb with John Candy from the 80s. Mm-hmm. I love that fucking movie, man. I've seen that movie so many times, and this past week I think I've watched it 3 times already.
Damn,
I love that movie, man. John Candy was a funny dude, yo.
Yeah, rest in peace, John Candy.
Yeah, rest in peace, man. And then finally, I actually, you know, every week we come on here and EJ's like, I watched this documentary that talked about like how if you eat chocolate, you're supporting slavery. And I'm like, damn.
What? I never said anything like that.
Like I
never said anything like that.
Like I gotta start educating myself, you know.
That's insane.
And so, you know, since I like sports, I watched a documentary that intersects between learning stuff in sports. I watched the Manti Tale documentary.
I can't take it. I don't know if I could take it.
Man, it was a lot about that story. I just knew like the top line stuff, like
And how
30,000
insensitive
feet.
we were to that kid.
Yeah. Oh man. Like, and you could tell in the documentary, he's still fucked up, yo. You could
Yeah,
tell.
Of course.
I talked about it with our tour guide, and he was like, yo, he was like that. They were. I told you they have this very, takes a village,
Yeah.
family, Sunday night dinner type shit in
Hmm.
Hawaii, and he was like they were torn apart for that kid, man. Like, the high school that they all went to, that all the big names like your guy, Tua, all of them. We drove by it. It's this small little high school. They all fucking went there and shit. But yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, man. It was crazy. It's a two-part. It's a two-part series. So it's one episode is like an hour and 5 minutes, and the other episode is just an hour. And they tell the whole story. And like you could tell, like that dude is like still fucked up. And the thing I thought that they missed an opportunity on was not to just describe like how it affected him like emotionally, you know what I mean? But the financial costs. You know what I mean? Like this shit cost this dude millions of fucking dollars.
First round pick.
Yeah.
First
So
bona fide first round pick dropped to be a basket case.
yeah.
And the thing about it, the media, and not to cut you off, and why I can't watch it, because honestly, when you think about it, right, everything was always put on him
Mm-hmm.
as if he was the one spinning this story,
Making it up,
as he
yeah.
was
Yeah.
making it up. He was the victim,
Yeah.
and this is a premier example.
They get into
why
that actually, Steve. I mean, EJ.
it's a premier example why me and Steve have the outlook that we have on a lot of this shit that happens, because it happens as if males can't be victims too.
Yeah.
We live in a society today, and a lot of this is not of our fault. It's because the men of generations before us were by and large savages. They were.
Mhm.
They smoked their cigarettes, they drank all crazy all the time, and they were savages. And that's because hurt people, right? But we're the generation that's saying, hey, we get it. We are understanding. Like VP, you're one of the most understanding people, supportive of the pod. You're a self-proclaimed feminist to some degrees, right? But
Or what
you
some
look,
people might call a bitch ass nigga.
nah, never would say that. Never would say that. But a dude like Manti Tale, society failed him because he was a
Mhm.
dude. He was a dude. And not only that, he wasn't a white dude. And he was a victim, man. And that's why I'm like, I don't know that I could watch that, because I was one of the people that killed this guy, because the media made it seem like it was all his fault.
Yeah. And they
It's
get
terrible.
into the media standpoint on what you're talking about. And it's funny, like, because anytime I watch stuff in media, there's all these unintended consequences that they ask themselves after the fact, like, man, should we have done it that way? But then they ask those questions and never learn the lessons the next time something happens, right? And it reminds me of for me, it hits more home close to me. You guys aren't Marlins fans, right? But during
No.
the one before the World Series, the whatever that like the NFC Championship. I don't know what they call it in baseball, but
ALCS, NLCS.
Yeah.
right. The Marlins were playing the Cubs, and remember that guy Brett, whatever his name, he stopped the dude from catching the fly ball, and then the Marlins ended up getting on base, and then somebody hit an RBI, brought the dude home, and that's how the Marlins beat the Cubs to go to the World Series for that
Oh yeah,
first.
yeah.
And that dude, the media put his name out there, and then people started showing up at this dude's house. They were showing up at his work,
He's
and
still in hiding today.
he's still in fucking hiding to this day. And the media will say stuff like, maybe we shouldn't have reported that guy's name. And then something else happens, and they say, oh, that person in the video is John Smith. And then the same shit happens over and over. You know what I mean? And so they talk about that part. Like the organization that reported the story originally, which I didn't even notice, was this website called Deadspin. And they were like, back then, Deadspin's whole job was to make fun of the media, to show like how you guys are reporting bullshit or whatever, And so they were like, they put the story out to make ESPN and Sport Illustrated look like shit. And then the story morphed into You know, is he gay? Was he in on it? You know, all this kind of shit like that. And they were like, holy shit, man. You know what I mean? And so that it was sad, man, watching that shit. It was sad. And I also they interviewed the person who was behind the fake girlfriend. That person is a part of the documentary as well.
It's
But
a female, right?
no, she transitioned. It was a guy who is a trans woman now. And it's kind of like what EJ was saying, hurt people, and that's essentially what her now issue was that came from a deeply religious family, super football. He has an uncle and two cousins that played in the NFL. Everybody in the family played in the NFL. The dad forced him to play football, and that wasn't his bag. And so after like practice and shit like that, he would go on social media and pretend to be a woman, like as an outlet to like kind of like be himself. You know what I mean? And then ends up meeting Manti Tale online, and everything progressed from that point.
Yo, we killed Manti Tale online.
Yeah,
the world.
Yeah.
You made me remember what I watched on the plane. I watched American Underdog. The Kurt Warner movie. It was good. It was very, very, very good.
Is that a movie or a documentary?
It's a movie about his life. So I guess it's a documentary, but it's a movie. So it's a docu-movie. But it was good, man. They did a good job with it. I didn't know that he went through the stuff that he went through. It's pretty good. You guys should watch it. That one I would say you guys will really like. You guys.
My man from what's his name played him? What's the guy's name that played him? He's in Shazam movie.
Oh yeah.
I can't think.
He actually looked like him. Mannerisms and all. He did a good job with it.
Adam Levine.
Oh, okay.
Something.
The other thing I watched real quick was Abbott Elementary. Not sure if you guys seen
Zach Levine. I'm sorry.
What'd you say, Fari?
I said the other thing that I watched was Abbott Elementary. It's like a comedy series.
Oh yeah, was that good?
Welcome to the world.
It's funny, man. It's really they shoot it like they call it mockumentary. They make it seem like it's a documentary on underfunded schools in Philly, and but it's funny, man. It's 13 episodes, but because it was on TV, and so like you can tell like when they cut for commercial, even though you can watch it on HBO Max, so all the episodes only 21 minutes. But it's really funny, man. I like the black dude on the show. Like he's hilarious, yo. And then the white dude Jacob, like he's like one of those. He's like the white character who tries to be an ally, but he's like too over the top with being woke.
I watched the episode. I watched the pilot episode, and then I stopped. It wasn't overly funny for me.
It's funny. Some of the humor is dry, and I like dry humor, so it was really funny to me. Like they got one episode where they're talking about pizza, and they're like, "What kind of?" She's like, "Oh, if you got to go to Geno's. They got the New York style." And he was like, "Nah, I like to go to so and so." And they asked the black dude, "Like, what do you like?" The black dude's from Baltimore, and he was like, "Oh, I like Baltimore style pizza." And they was like, "I never heard of that." They're like, "How's Baltimore style?" And he's like, "Fuck," because now you got to continue to lie, And he's like, "Oh, they make it like it's like really wet, so it's got like extra sauce, and then they put like extra cheese too. So like, sometimes you pick it up and it's just dripping off, and they're all looking like, the fuck, And he's like, it's so good, And so, he was like, "Where do you go?" And he's like, "I go to this place called Say Cheese." And so the white dude who's like the one who's like extra woke, he ends up driving to Baltimore and finds the place and orders the pizza like the dude said. And he's just lying about the pizza. And so he brings it back and he's like, "I went to your place and got the pizza," or whatever, And then the guy's looking like, fuck. So he finally comes clean and he's like, "I don't like pizza." And everybody's like, "You don't like pizza?" And he was like, "This is why I don't tell people, because people get all, And he's like, "It's all these ingredients just sloshing around in your mouth. It doesn't make sense."
You talking about the dude from Everybody Hates Chris?
Yeah. Oh, he's like, "It doesn't make sense." And then the guy's looking at him. He's like, "What about pie?" And the dude just looks back and he's like, "Fruit shouldn't be hot." I like that shit. I love that. I watched the whole thing like in a week because, like I told you, it's 13 episodes, but the episode's only 20 minutes.
Short.
Yeah. You can easily watch like 5-6 episodes and not even realize 2 hours went by.
I watched the last thing I watched too, aside from that, was Honor Society. I watched it's on Paramount Plus, and it has the kid from Stranger Things with the mouth, like with the braces and shit, the
I've
lisp.
never watched
And
that. I don't get it.
no, me either. I don't watch it. And then
Stranger
Okay, I
Things.
just people talk about
Stranger
that
Things.
shit like it's like
It was boring to me.
you haven't seen and I'm like,
I fell asleep
yeah,
6 times.
no, I watched.
It's
Yeah, I
like
watched
ozone to me.
I gave it 6 episodes. So
damn, that's a
It's
lot
like
for you.
it's like ozone to me. It's
That's a
boring
lot
as
for you,
fuck.
Steve.
yeah, it was not it. So you won't like it. I don't think you might actually. You might. People are like, oh, it's so nostalgic. Nah, I didn't see nothing nostalgic in it at all.
I'd be all right.
It was trash. I didn't like it at all.
But he's in it, and then there's this white girl, and they're high school kids. Oh, and McLovin is in it.
Oh,
Yeah. So, but it was okay. It was all right. It was pretty interesting. It was an interesting movie.
I saw an
Um,
interview with McLovin recently, and he was saying like how people like the movie was like 20 years ago, and like he's tired of people always coming up to him,
Of course. Of
McLovin,
course.
da da da, So
that's your name. That's your
right,
name, dude. It's like Tony
Dog.
Soprano.
Yeah, that's like you getting into that field and you're forever gonna be known as an iconic role, until you may never get past that, but you
And you
got
should
bread
be
off that shit.
happy. Yeah,
Yeah.
you should be happy that you have that, and it's not because you might only get roles because of it. You know what I'm
no, I
saying?
get it though. Chadwick was the same way. They said he was tired of people making him, do the salute.
Wakanda forever joint.
Yeah, the Wakanda. He was like, come on, dude, like what the fuck? Like, I
Yo,
get it, man.
Chadwick. Yo, Chadwick. Thinking like, yo, that's a movie, yo. Like, what are you talking about?
But that's the tough life that those guys gotta, that those
Yeah.
celebrities gotta go through. And that's the thing you really gotta ask yourself. Am I really trying to be a part of that life? You could have been an everyday Joe. You know what I
Imagine
mean?
Michael, what's his name, and people calling him Omar. Like,
Oh,
no doubt,
oh,
if
yeah.
I ever seen him in person, I would have called him Omar.
No
Yeah.
Like, yo,
question.
Omar. Like,
Michael
no
No
Vietnam.
question.
question. No question. Yeah.
But watch Underdog Story. You guys will like it. I think you will like it a lot. It's not long. It doesn't feel long. It doesn't drag. It's actually pretty damn good. EJ, I think you'll like it a lot. With that though, we are in our final descent. Our fantasy draft is Friday, and then we have a week beyond that. Actually, less than a week beyond that. 5 days beyond that, and it's that time of year. It's like first football. Actually, first pumpkin spice, because once I see pumpkin spice start popping up
Pumpkin spice
places,
beer or
pumpkin spice
Everything.
anything. Yeah, as soon as
Anything.
I see pumpkin spice being talked about, I know football is near.
We hear
And
pumpkin spice iPad. Like,
yeah,
football is nigh.
so football is right up the road, gentlemen. Preseason, I think we're done seeing starters.
Nope. You're gonna see them today.
yeah,
Some teams are playing today. My dumbass team is playing them today.
at least a quarter, I think.
Yeah, a
quarter,
quarter and a
maybe
half. Yep.
Few plays. Tom Brady played 10 plays. Tom Brady's back.
I mean, he's old. You can't.
He disappeared for a little bit.
Did Tua and Cheetah cook the Eagles starters the other day, or was that the Eagles second team?
No, it was starters.
Really?
They cooked them.
Wow.
Yeah,
Shout out to
but
Tua.
Shout out to Senior E. He's talking all that shit in the chat.
He hasn't been talking
practice.
shit.
This is practice.
Shout out to them.
you got to be sensitive to E, because when he talks shit about the Eagles winning in preseason, we give him a hard time. So we can't really give him a hard time about them getting their ass beat by the Dolphins. The Dolphins, listen, man, you guys have a lot of talent on that team. You guys have really good corners. You've got a young quarterback who, if he can stay within himself and take, just a step forward, he doesn't have to be the greatest. He just needs to take a step forward because he has some weapons. There could be some value there for you guys.
I totally disagree.
The challenge is you have a very difficult task in your division, which is those Buffalo Bills, who are phenomenal, and the AFC in general is fucking crazy. That AFC West, we could see 3 teams come out of the AFC West easily. So it's going to be an uphill battle for y'all as Dolphins. EJ, I'm excited about Brees
I
Hall.
disagree a little bit, Steve, real quick. And the reason I disagree is I feel like we have upgraded the line. We've upgraded the offense essentially, and you could have a situation where, maybe two, wins, a couple games above 500. Or I guess you can't really go 500 anymore since they added the extra game. But he wins a couple of more games. Dolphins don't make the playoffs, and now you're in this predicament. Is we've upgraded it, we got better, he got better, but do we need to stick with him, or is it time to go get a guy?
Well, I think if you did that, you guys would, you know, you would be built at that time to where you can't wait for a rookie. So you would have to try and get a veteran like Aaron Rodgers, who I think his contract is up, or did he just extend?
Nah, he re-up, he extended.
Okay, but that would be the kind of guy that, like, you guys go at two of this year, you win 10, you know what I'm saying? You go 10-7, maybe miss the playoffs, probably miss the playoffs at 10-7. And then if you could next year keep a similar team, maybe bring in an Aaron Rodgers and another decent wide receiver, and you could be where you need to be. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I think the Dolphins win at least 12 games this season. I think you sweep your division with the exception of the Bills. I think you sweep the Jets. I think you sweep New England. I'm just not. I don't have any confidence in New England. I know you guys have a little bit of a tough stretch at the beginning, but I think there's some. I think there's possibility for you guys.
I hear you, but I'm worried. In New England, we got New England week 1, and that could be a tricky situation for us.
New England
So
looks bad, bro. New
no,
England
they
looks,
do.
Mhm.
they
But I
look
feel like we
bad.
should win that game. But you know how it be, like the beginning of the season, team still ain't really, and you fuck
But
around and lose a game you shouldn't lose because it's week 1. You still kind of getting that rust off. You know what I mean?
New England has nothing for
New
Tyreek
England
Hill.
looks
For
bad, bro.
Tyreek Hill, they have absolutely nothing for Tyreek Hill.
New England looks like horrendous. Like horrendous, but sweep the division. Whoa.
You guys
They
start
not
New.
beating
He said
Buffalo
except
at all.
He said except Buffalo.
I said with the exception of
Oh,
Buffalo.
they not sweeping us neither though.
I know. New, you guys got New England,
New
easy.
England, Buffalo, Jets, Ravens,
Baltimore.
They not beating us.
You got New England, Baltimore, which
Listen,
is
the Jets are gonna beat the Ravens game 1.
No, I wasn't going in order, Steve, but yeah, it's New England, Baltimore, Bills, Bengals.
Y'all should beat Baltimore, but y'all always shit the bet against them. I don't know why, but I think this year you're gonna beat them because we're gonna beat them first. We're gonna beat them.
I think you guys win against New England. Open up New England. I think you sneak one out in Baltimore. I think you get troused. I think you start out
disrespectful. He just
I think
ignored me.
I think you guys start out 2-0. And then people are like, "Yo, are the Dolphins for real?" And then I think you get trounced by Buffalo. And you end up 2-1, 2-1. Then I think you get into a dogfight with Cincinnati and come out 2-2 there. But then I think you win 3 in a row with the Jets, Minnesota, actually 4 in a row. Jets, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. Actually, you could probably win 5 in a row. Jets, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago.
The disrespect.
That should be a 5
Jets
game.
are not losing to Miami.
Yeah,
that first game.
Detroit team looks like shit, yo. Like I should have said anything. I've been watching Hard Knocks too. That team looks awful.
Yeah,
Detroit will forever be awful.
They are awful. They don't look awful. They are awful.
I like Dan Campbell. I liked him when he coached us. I thought the Dolphins should have gave him a lot more consideration for that head coaching job after he was the interim coach when we fired Joe Philbin.
This is my thing.
He's motivational, but the team sucks.
I don't think y'all are gonna be good. I think y'all have a talented team, but I don't think y'all have the coaching dogs. I mean, y'all just beat up on the Eagles, but the Eagles are a shitty team, and nobody's talking about that. You know, they got AJ. One of their biggest highlights in offseason was AJ Brown, but your defense is shitty.
Who's on the defense? Is actually pretty good.
How?
Oh, the Eagles defense, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the Dolphins defense.
No, the Dolphins have a talented roster.
Great secondary.
I believe that very much so. They have a talented roster. I just don't know that their coach, and maybe it's a situation where the last guy, the brother, I can't think of his name up top,
Flores.
Flores, put together this machine
Damn.
that's pretty good. I think that could be the case, but we don't know how it's going to play out in actual season in-game coaching because their coach is very inexperienced. But they just beat up on the Eagles first quarter of this last preseason game, right? But the Eagles defense and the Eagles team is pretty shitty. They got Jalen Hurts, who they still don't even know. The jury is apparently always out on him. I didn't think this, but the jury is always out. No one ever talks about Jalen Hurts as if he's the resident guy. And that seems to be a thing in Philly. Even when McNabb was there, they didn't fuck with McNabb until 13 seasons later and he had multiple NFC championships, right? They didn't fuck with this guy. And I mean, not championships winning, but appearances.
Right.
They didn't fuck with this guy. So it's like in Philly, it's like, okay, who is your quarterback? Does Philly ever have, in the last 10 to 15 years, has Philly, other than Donovan McNabb, ever had a quarterback? And even when McNabb was
I don't
there,
even care about Philly.
but I'm
They're
saying
trash.
my point is this: they've never had stability in that organization.
So I wouldn't base the Dolphins' potential
That's what I'm
success
saying.
on a
That's what
Philly
I'm saying.
quarter.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They
no, I
look,
wouldn't
that
do
was
that.
the first time they looked good.
I'm basing it on their roster.
You
I
base
feel
it on
like
paper.
I feel like they got a better coach. Now, I won't say a better coach than Flores, but I feel like they made moves to get a young coach who's going to do some things different.
I would say better than Flores because on the offensive side, Flores is decent.
Yeah. The challenge for you guys in Miami, I think the biggest challenge is you got 14 running backs and you have no identity at running back. And that's where it's going to get challenging because you got Raheem Mostert, you still got Gaskin over there. You got who's the other running back? There's a third one. I forget his name, but you got three running backs that could do the job, and nobody knows who the starter is. I don't even think the team knows who the starter is. So
I think the whole point of having all the running backs, so Steve, is that because our offensive line was shit and we really didn't have any really like real good running backs over the years, nobody ever respect the run, right? So if Tua or Fitzpatrick, when they play action and they turned around, they didn't see linebackers biting hard, saying like, "Oh shit, let me get back in position." The linebackers were still covering the guys because they were like, even if they do run it, the front four is going to stop this guy because that fucking O line is trash, you know. So I think they wanted to get a legit running threat as well as a beefed up line. So that way, when they do play action and Mike McDaniel's offense is an RPO offense, you can it's going to be respected when they try to play action.
Myles Gaskin was good last year. He should be your starter. Jalen Waddle on the other side of Tyreek, Gesicki in the middle. It's Tua. That if you guys have a shitty season, it's going to be because he just can't figure it out. The Jets, EJ, you guys drew a bad deck, man. How do you guys start all 4 of your games at the AFC North? But playing against the AFC.
The AFC North, to me, in my opinion, is not what they think it is. Baltimore, we crown Baltimore every year as being this tough franchise when we really don't look on paper with what's going on. Lamar Jackson has one receiving threat. It's Mark Andrews. Other than that, offensively, they don't do anything. Their defense has lost a lot. They're not the same team as they've always been. They're very well coached. Take Harbaugh out of there. And the crazy thing is these people around here that I live around, they hate Harbaugh. But he's one of the most consistent coaches in the league, which is crazy to me, right?
And Steve, I would say I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying on paper as far as them drawing a bad deck, but really that Ravens team is banged up with injuries. I don't know if you guys saw. I sent the thing last night. They had to cart off their mascot, and people, you know what I mean. Like they have injuries everywhere. The Jets could very well win that game. The Browns, they got Jacoby Brissett starting. Jets could very well win that game. Bengals, they're gonna get.
We beat the Bengals with a backup last year.
They're gonna get smoked.
We beat the Bengals with a backup last year, though.
They're gonna get smoked.
But okay. Right. Look at this though. It's
right? The same. EJ's doing the same thing he does with the Jets that he does with the Knicks. Well, we always have a good fight against them, so that team's not that good because they're bad against my team.
With the Knicks, I tell the truth. We're a bad team,
But you
I lay out
always
the
you always
performance.
gauge other teams on how they perform against the Knicks.
Yeah,
And
shouldn't you be able to gauge how good a team is
no,
about how
absolutely not.
bad they play a shitty team?
No, it's any
Sometimes.
given Sunday. It's
Well,
any
what about
given
the
week.
Cowboys then?
The dog shines. The sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then. You know, like
What about the Cowboys then? We forget the Bengals was the last place team last year. Before last year, they were shit.
their quarterback was hurt.
They were a shitty team before that. That's why they had the number 1 fucking pick.
They also
and then
had
Right.
right, but
And
they're
so
a
they
whole
got
different
lucky last year.
team.
they're
What
a
are you
whole different
talking
team
about?
now.
They're
We
a whole
beat them
different team.
motherfuckers with a backup with the same squad that went to the Super Bowl.
Okay,
It
we
happens.
got it.
What about
got
what
it.
about the Cowboys? What about the Cowboys?
Any given
Tell us how
Sunday.
this is the Cowboys year again.
Look, EJ, you guys are gonna play the Bengals, and you guys are gonna get killed,
All right. If
roasted,
we win, if we win,
filleted, stick
if
a
we
fork
win.
in them. It's over.
if we win,
Listen,
Yo, look, hey, we
The
got the
Jets-
draft coming up. I'm willing to take your action. Let me
The
just
Je-
put it to you that way.
yeah, let me get through today's preseason game with no injuries, and let me talk.
you already got an injury. Your quarterback is out.
Fuck that kid.
I know you love Joe Flacco because you went to school with him, but the guy is
didn't go to
not.
school
He's
with him.
not, he's 70. Like he's 70 years
Okay,
old.
but Tom Brady is 80, and
and
listen,
he's a better quarterback.
but Joe Flacco in the playoffs was beat Tom Brady.
See how
Nobody
he
likes to
does
talk about
things.
this.
You see how he does things.
I'm just saying, Joe Flacco is one of the most efficient
Oh my
quarterbacks.
god.
He literally just walked into Steve's point.
Joe
This is
Flacco is one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league historically. He is. We like to talk numbers, but we don't like to talk numbers when it counts, unless it counts for our guy.
We're talking, but
everybody
his
knows
right, his
numbers
numbers,
don't lie, but
his
they don't tell the
numbers,
whole
yeah,
story.
his
I
numbers
agree
10
with you.
years ago don't
You're
determine
a
how
fucking
good he
hater.
is
You're a fucking
today.
hater, and you're the same guy that says Tony Romo should be in the Hall of Fame.
How am I a
I
hater?
wouldn't go that far.
How am I a hater
he
because I
says that.
said how am I a hater because I said Joe Flacco because you have a hurt quarterback.
Nah, you're a hater because you doubting that because Joe Flacco is old,
Okay.
right? But Tom Brady can do it. The only reason Tom Brady is because he's had rings because
Here
he's
we
with
go.
the Patriots. Tom Brady don't do nothing that Joe Flacco can't do.
You're
So
right.
EJ,
You're right.
I'm doubting that you guys beat the Bengals because the Bengals have upgraded their team. They don't have that shitty ass line anymore that allowed Joe Flacco to be sacked 300 times in a game,
Joe Burrow.
right? I mean, Joe Burrow.
Mhm.
You know, they've made upgrades on the defensive side of the ball as well as the offside. Like you guys don't have the horses.
The one reason I'm saying that is because historically, right? And I'm gonna leave it with this. Certain teams just historically own other teams in the NFL. That's what it is. When we played the Chargers were like 11 and something coming in to see us. And no matter what happens, whether we play there or we play in New York, we always beat them. The Bengals, same fucking thing. I'm just saying.
Listen,
Here's
here's the thing, Vari. You're making a point for the Bengals getting better, and that's why they're going to beat the Jets.
I hear that.
The fact is,
Jets got
the
better
Jets,
too, baby.
the Jets are not a good team.
Jets got better too, baby.
I would feel much better if the Jets had their young quarterback. Joe Flacco, while he can make throws, he's always been able to make throws.
Wow.
He's not the guy that I don't think he's going to lead the Jets to wins. Like he's not the guy that I'm like, oh, he's going to be your guy. Like he didn't look good last year.
He won 4 games with no preparation. He was 2-2 without a starting rep in training camp. How did he not look good? He was 2-2.
Here we go.
I'm giving you facts. Answer that. How was he 2-2 without a starting rep? I don't remember who he went.
Right. So it doesn't matter. We can't have this conversation.
He won
without
2
talking about
games
that.
without starting reputation, without starting reps. He went 2 games and won without starting
But
reps.
you just said that he can do anything Tom Brady can do. So if that's
Tom
the case,
Brady
how does
gets
that surprise
starting
you? So how does that surprise you?
You're not even making sense. Joe Flacco won 2 games
right,
without
you
having
got it, G.
starting
You got
reps.
it, Chief.
How does
Chief.
Vari, how does Tom Brady go a season without starting reps? My point was Flacco won 2 games out of 4 without starting reps the entire year. How is that Tom Brady, Vari? Explain that to me.
It's experience.
Yo.
No. Explain to me.
Listen.
Vari.
The
No.
Jets are starting
Can I
1
have
and
this moment?
6.
Can I have
The
this
Jets are
moment?
starting 1 and
Somebody
6.
Can I have this moment? Somebody rational. He said, "You just said he can do anything Tom Brady does." Tom Brady never goes anywhere without starting reps, right, Vari? He's always the first team quarterback. Joe Flacco didn't get
does that mean?
starting reps
What does that have
last
to do with
year.
anything? If you're great, you're
I'm
great.
comparing. You're not even making sense.
Who'd he
Var,
play?
you get what I'm saying?
Who'd he
You get
play?
what I'm saying?
Who
The
did
guy
he play?
won 2. The guy won 2 games without starting
Who did he?
reps. Is what I'm saying. No. That's not what I'm talking about.
What weeks
He
was it?
won 2 games without starting reps.
Who did he play?
You
And what
try to
weeks were they?
compare him to Tom Brady doesn't make sense because
No,
Tom
I
Brady
didn't.
always gets.
I did not compare him to Tom Brady in any way.
You're coming back to me to say, well, what did Tom Brady do? Tom Brady always gets starting reps.
Here's the great thing about this. This thing's recorded.
What are the
You can go
Cowboys going
back
to do?
and
What are
you
the
can go
Cowboys going
back
to
and
do? What are the
listen.
Cowboys going to do?
See
What are the Cowboys
how
going to do?
angry he gets. We haven't even gotten
What are
anywhere.
the Cowboys going to do?
We started with the Dolphins.
I think Joe Flacco beat the Cowboys last year.
I can assure you they didn't. 100%.
But I can tell you we're 2-0 versus y'all the last times we played.
You're absolutely wrong.
We didn't beat y'all the last 2 times we played.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
Well, we beaten y'all since we had Jamal Adams.
Okay. This is not podcast content. There's one in you guys are starting 1-6.
What are the Cowboys gonna do?
We haven't gotten to the Cowboys. We started with the Dolphins.
Okay,
we said the Jets.
Already.
We said the Jets have a tough starting season.
What are the Cowboys?
And then you got all. And then you bucked up your chest because
what
you feel
are the
like
Cowboys
your team is
gonna
good.
do? What are the Cowboys gonna do? Why are you avoiding that? What are the Cowboys gonna do?
So Vari, as I was saying, the Jets have a tough start to their season. We can get back to podcast content versus sitting here and arguing and screaming because I don't want to talk about how bad my team is.
What are the Cowboys going to do?
So the Jets are starting 4 games at the AFC North, which is really crazy that the NFL would even do that. Like that.
Vari already commented on it. He thinks that we have a better shot than you think. Move along. What are the Cowboys going to do?
I think they have a better. I think they could win that Ravens game because of the amount of injuries against the Ravens. Also, you got Flacco starting. You know, that's going to kind of be like a revenge kind of thing. I could see them winning that Ravens game.
Thank you, Var.
Browns, Jacoby Brissett's quarterbacking. I can see them winning that game. They're going to get smoked by the Bengals. I think they lose to the Steelers. Obviously, they're going to lose to the Dolphins, lose to the Packers, lose to the Broncos. They could beat the Patriots, lose to the Jets, beat the Patriots again.
Lose to the Jets. They're the Jets.
I mean, lose to Buffalo.
Lose to Buffalo. I meant to say.
Lose
to Buffalo. Beat the Patriots again. So, like, I got you guys down for like 3 wins by the time you get to like week 10.
I'm muting Steve now because this nigga thinks he's in control, but I'm in control.
I'm the captain
now. And I'm back. Trying to remove me from the stream. I'm back, buddy.
We're at 2 hours, dog. Can you just be responsible for a minute? If you were on time, you would have had a lot of talk time.
Oh, here we go. All right. I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna go bye-bye.
So the Jets have a difficult start to their season. The Dolphins, I feel like they're gonna have a good year. And the Cowboys. Let's see. We start with the Bucks, which is going to be a really tough one. It's a home game for us. That's going to be a tough game. Then we go Bengals. That's another tough game. So we could probably split or go 0-2 there. But I think we will beat up on the Giants, beat up on Washington. Rams is going to be a tough one. But I'm not really sold on the Rams this year simply because they only have 1 wide receiver. They got Cooper Kupp. That's it. Good defense, 1 wide receiver, quarterback who they're trying to manage him through shoulder injury, and so I'm not sold on the Rams at all this year against anyone. I think their defense is going to have to keep them in. Philly's going to be, it's a divisional game for us, and it's in Philly, so that's going to be interesting. And then we have Detroit, Chicago. I think those are 2 wins. Green Bay, I think we win. I think Green Bay has a tough year unless Aaron Rodgers finds a way to make somebody a number 1 wide receiver. If Alan Lazard can take that next step forward, I think Green Bay has a pretty good season. And then we get Minnesota. So that kind of rounds out our top 8 or so, 8 to 10 games. I think getting into that Thanksgiving time frame, it's going to be interesting to see where we're at. I think we could very easily be 5-4, or we could very easily be 7-2. It really depends on if, one, Mike McCarthy is a shitty coach. He's a terrible coach. He's not good time management. And that's going to be key against a lot of these teams, especially, the good ones, Tampa, Cincinnati, when you have a quarterback that can make a play with less than a minute left. You know what I'm saying? Um, those are going to be some tough ones. And we're dealing with injuries. Michael Gallup still not confirmed to be here. We lost Tyron Smith, left tackle. I think we're under 500 when he doesn't play. So there needs to be some type of backup, there. And we have to see what Zeke does when he comes in. Is Zeke going to be Zeke, or are we going to be realists and say, even though we're paying him, Tony Pollard is the better back, and he needs to be our guy? Like, there's a lot of decisions. On paper, the Cowboys can be an amazing team. They can be a great team. Good defense, young defense, good offense.
A
Dak Prescott,
good defense.
right? Good defense. Finally,
Hmm.
Yeah,
young defense.
I agree with what you were saying, Steve. While you were talking, I was looking at the schedule and I'm counting what I think could be wins losses, and I got my numbers exactly where you are. The Cowboys could be 7-2 by the time you get to Thanksgiving, or they could be 5-4.
But the thing about them, when it gets clutch time, what team really shows up?
Yeah, but they got the benefit of playing like, you would look at the schedule and say like, oh, okay, they got Green Bay coming up. Green Bay don't got no receivers, right? They got Philly. That's a divisional game. I believe that's a Sunday night when I looked at the schedule. You would think like, no, that's gonna be you just don't know with a game like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think the Cowboys got a shot at being like 7-9, or they could be 5-4 by the time you get to Thanksgiving. So,
but the Cowboys always win games. They always win games, and then they have letdown games. Like I said,
the good thing for the Cowboys, and real quick, and then I'll let you go.
No, go ahead.
Because it goes to what VP was saying, is if they do the 5-4 thing versus the 7-2 thing, they round out with Giants, Indy, Houston, Jacksonville, Philly, Tennessee, Washington. Like, that's the bonus to the Cowboy season.
Give me games, except for Tennessee, maybe.
Should be a lot of easy games at the end of the year,
except for Tennessee, maybe. Yep. But the thing with the Cowboys, I don't dislike the Cowboys. I only dislike Cowboys fans. But it's just something about this team that they get to where they're supposed to be, and they shit the bed. Like I said, every regular season game that we've had against the Cowboys in the last 5 years, we won. And we should have never won those games. The game where Jamal Adams takes the handoff from Dak Prescott, and it's just embarrassing. And it's like, y'all haven't gotten to the point where y'all don't play to the competition. Y'all are not a scary team. Like, people see y'all on the schedule and they're like, this team is talented, but do they have the killer instinct? They're built like the Bulls, but they don't play like the Bulls.
They're built like LeBron.
I agree with you 100%.
You see him coming on the schedule. You're like, damn, this guy's going to get in the gym and really rack us up. And then the clutch time comes, and you just don't know what's going to happen, right? I'm not going to say LeBron hasn't had clutch moments, but you just don't know if he's going to make it his moment or if he's going to try and make it someone else's moment. And the Cowboys to me, are similar. You just don't know if Dak's going to make it his moment. You don't know if someone's going to make a bad play. You don't know if we're going to have someone hold. You don't know if someone's going to have a false start. If our defense is going to jump off sides and give a first down. Like, it's just, if our coach is not going to call a timeout or is going to call a timeout when he shouldn't. Like, all of those variables that we need to sort out. And I feel like here's what I'm hoping, and I feel like is, I hope Jerry Jones, and he's never been the type, but I would like for him to put Mike McCarthy on a short leash, because this is, if ever there's a coach that needs to be on a short leash, you got this guy you brought in because he's a winner, right? He lost the locker room last year, found his way back into some of the good graces of the team last year, but made some really bonehead, bullshit, dumbass mistakes that cost us some big games because of his time management.
How many games did y'all win last year, though?
I think we won 11-6 last year.
11 games for a first-year head coach.
Nah, he's not a first-year head coach. That's not.
Of this team.
No, I get what you're saying.
Not overall, not overall in experience.
I know what you're saying. I'm just saying.
But we're talking like this dude is like absolute shit, though. He does have a Super Bowl. Who else were you gonna get to coach this team? Who else were you gonna get? This guy is Super Bowl pedigree. We like to talk about what he did in Green Bay as if it was the easiest thing to do. Aaron Rodgers wasn't. Aaron Rodgers hasn't won since him.
Chris Richard would have been a better choice.
Who?
The defensive
Richard,
coordinator.
the defensive coordinator that came from Seattle. That was like
I know, but
he made the
has
no
he been a head coach to do anything else?
no
No,
no,
he
but
made that.
neither was the Rams coach McVay.
McVay,
McVay?
yeah, I get it. And honestly, McVay's team couldn't be any better than the bum ass NFC West. I get it. But again, I mean, when you look at this guy, he has the pedigree. He has everything that would make sense. The only problem is he's been known to run franchises to draft the people he wants to draft. And we know Jerry don't do that. And when you look at Green Bay, they didn't have when they won championships, they didn't have a star-studded roster. They didn't.
They went 12-5 last year, but
12-5,
realistically,
and we're talking about this guy being shitty. 12-5. That's a hell of a year.
12-5 and bounced in the first round.
Yeah, that's because y'all choke in the playoffs.
Also,
No, it was bad coaching. How's your team not ready to play in the playoffs? Like that's coaching. That's not the players. That's not 100% on players. That's at least 80% coaching. Your guys got to be ready. We can't go out there and get trounced by the 49ers. Like he's got an old mindset. You know, he's my way or the highway. He just doesn't. He's not the guy for it.
And that's kind of where I was going, like bringing up Jerry, is I think that you got an owner who's an old guy, old mindset, and I think regardless of who your coach, even if Jerry fires McCarthy, I think you're going to get one of these like long in the tooth. He has all this experience type coaches. You know what I mean? I don't think even if Jerry interviews Chris
Richard,
Chris Richard, I think the guy will get an interview, but Jerry probably won't hire him. He's still going to go with some Chan Gailey type of person who was in their 60s.
No, you know who it would be?
Coaching experience and shit like that.
It would be your boy Sean Payton.
Yeah, something like
That's exactly who it would be. And quite frankly, I don't know that that's a bad decision.
Even though Sean Payton, between Sean Payton and your current coach,
Sean Payton always has his locker room. He's never lost his locker room. He never lost his quarterback. Mike McCarthy lost Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy were just not.
Well, we also know Aaron Rodgers is a diva dickhead.
He lost the Cowboys locker room last year.
But am I wrong? And Sean Payton only has one championship. Couldn't do anything else after that, right? What's the real difference?
I prefer a coach that has, just like any other job, I prefer a guy who has a relationship with his team. Mike McCarthy he's just not a good coach, man. He's old. He makes bad decisions. Now, here's the thing, right? He's got a second year. He's going to have time to prove that he is a good coach. You went 12-5 last year. That's a great record, but you got bounced. And not only did you get bounced, but you got bounced when you were a favorite to win, like to go deep into the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like to me, I think that's big. Like the Cowboys were a favorite. You had a pretty healthy team. Micah Parsons had the year of his life. Our defense was pulling it together. Dak was having a good season. Zeke was having a down season, but even still, like you had a lot of pieces. And then, whoever's decision it was in the offseason to get rid of Amari Cooper, we didn't backfill that position in any way except with a James Washington who's, not nearly as good. And now he's hurt. And Gallup is still hurt. So that's where I think it gets tough for us, man. I really hope they make a phone call and they go get. I thought they should have tried to get Julio, and maybe Julio didn't want to play there because maybe he just didn't want to. But I thought they should have tried to get him, even though he's old. He would have been cheap, and I do still feel like they should try and go get Odell while he's cheap because he's still got to prove that he can come back from the injury. And we can probably get him on a 1 year deal, 1 or 2 year deal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think. End of the day, I think it's going to be a great season. A lot of new faces, new places. Who is your dark horse, not fan pick to win the Super Bowl? Not your favorite, but if you had to make a dark horse pick that could, surprise the world this year.
Um, hmm, hmm. I think that wait, no, he didn't. Hang on one second. Let me, because I'm confused on where a player went, because I was getting ready to say a team and I'm like, wait, I don't think who I think went there is there.
Not sure if he went there.
Yeah,
I'm,
so
I'm interested
one.
to. I'm interested while you look it up. I'm interested to see how Jacksonville does this year too.
That'd be trash.
They probably will, but I think Trevor Lawrence in the second year. Hopefully, Etienne can stay healthy. I would like to see how they do. I think they can have an okay year from a divisional standpoint, but they're not
Yeah.
going to do anything major.
So I would say a dark horse team for me, which is where I was going. I had to look it up real quick. Is the Colts. I think they upgraded the quarterback. I think that team has a lot of good pieces. They got good defensive players. They got good offensive players. Carson Wentz just wasn't it. And I think even though it's not like Matt Ryan is like a huge upgrade, but he is an upgrade nonetheless. And sometimes you just need that little bit. You know what I mean? And I think
He's
Matt
poised.
Ryan, yeah, I think Matt Ryan can give that to the Colts. So I would have them like as a dark horse potential for winning the Super Bowl.
I can get with that.
I was confused. I was like, wait, I was gonna say the Colts, and I was like, wait, I thought Matt Ryan went to Tennessee. Like I was like fucked up in my head about it. So I was like, let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, no, I think so. For me, I think a dark horse for me is, and people are gonna may think it's not, but I think Denver. Um, Denver's got a great young running back. Actually, maybe I should say he's just pretty good, so you don't take him in our fantasy draft. But
No, I actually was gonna say like Denver, maybe the Raiders, but because you said dark horse, I didn't feel like that was like enough of a
like
dark horse.
super dark.
Right.
Yeah, you thought they were a brown horse, not a black beauty.
Right.
That the only reason I say them in either one of them, I think, is still because that's a really really tough division. You got Kansas City, Oakland, the Chargers, and Denver. Like I think that's probably the best division in football this year, and I don't even think it's close because you got four good quarterbacks. You got, Derek Carr is the worst of the four, and he's still a good quarterback. You got Russell Wilson with Denver. He's going to have Cortland Sutton, two good running backs, great defense. Like Denver's something. And then you got the Chargers, right, with Herbert, who I think is going to have another good year. If Mike Wallace can get it going, and Keenan Allen can get it going, and Eckler, they can have a good year. They got a good defense. Kansas City, I think, is my quiet trash team. I think that people love Patrick Mahomes, and they're like, man, this guy is great. I think unless someone like Juju steps up, I think he might have a really tough season, man, because there's no Tyreek over there blowing the top off of the defense, keeping safeties, honest. And your boy he's getting old. Tight end, Travis
Yeah,
Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah, I mean he's not old by any means, but he's getting older.
Yeah.
And he's going to get more safety help because there's no Tyreek for them to worry about. You don't have to be safe because this guy's going to run right past you. So I think Kansas City could be quietly a team that even misses the playoffs.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think KC, they got a shit ton of picks from us, and I don't think that they looked at replacing Tyreek as the priority they should have, you know. And I definitely agree with that. I could think they could be a trash team this year. Mahomes is good, no doubt, but I mean, having a guy like Tyreek who demands a double, sometimes even a triple team,
Yep.
and then that opens up all your other guys. That's going to be sorely missed there. And Mahomes will make some magic with some of these guys, but I don't think it's anything like we've seen the past 4 or 5 seasons.
Yep. I'm with you. I think that's another team that could benefit from going and getting Odell right now, because I mean he's not going to blow the top off, but at least you have Juju, Mecole Hardman, and you'd have Odell. who, if he can get back to 90% of himself, 80% of himself, you have to account for that guy. He can route run, he can catch the ball, he's a smart guy. Now that he's not on the Giants. All of that was post Giants. Before the Giants, he was a piece of shit. And Odell can make him good. I'm sorry, not Odell. Mahomes. And someone's frozen. I don't know if it's me or if it's you. All right. Well, it might be me or it might not be. But we lost VP and we lost EJ. But we are at a stopping point anyway. So I will take this moment to get us up out of here. As normal, like VP says, check on your people. It is a Castworthy podcast. Before we get out of here, where you can find us pretty much anywhere. You can check us out on Spotify, Spreaker. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. Generally, we're recording every Sunday between 9 and 10 a.m. And that's where you can find us. Interact with us, like us, dislike us, send us some messages, send us some comments, send us some topics. If you want to come on and debate some shit, we'll take it. We're here for it. Let us know. But otherwise, in your personal lives, check on your family. Things are still going on that are making people stressed out. So make sure everybody's good. And, until next week, we appreciate you watching. Same bat time, same bat channel. We are out. Peace.